South Africa is a movie. It's a series. Every now and again, you'll be surprised by something new. This quote has been the quotes of quotes ever since politician man said it on Newsroom Africa once upon a time. Hmm? As such, people's opinions and observational capacity has been of considering this country as a scripted eventual outcome. When apartheid came to an end, ish, we say it came to an end, it just merely evolved. What had happened was something called the Codesa Agreement or peace, whatever you want to call it. The ruling power at that time, the National Party, the NP, got with the now elected ruling power, the ANC, and they said, look, we're prepared to hash out a few peace treaties and negotiations and sunset clauses, please. But under no circumstances must you, as a black South African, think that the white monopoly power structures of this country were going to give up their financial power to the black peoples. Never. They knew through sanctions that political power was meaningless and financial power was where it's at. That's why they didn't hesitate letting us believe that we won or that we finally elected a black government, and because black people are in charge, everything's going to be okay now. 30 years later, we know this has not been the case. 30 years later, we know Stellenbosch is still in charge. And no matter who you vote for, Stellenbosch wins. The Stellenbosch Mafia, the powers that have been holding on to money in this country since invasion in 1652. The money they made through the slave trade, the British East India Company, and I don't know what other Dutch companies and British companies they were. They were trafficking humans, that's all I know. Then you had the colonial masters. On one side, you had the British and the Dutch, the English and the Afrikaner, just fighting each other to be in power, all at the expense of the black man and woman. Now here we are again, 30 years later since our supposed election for freedom in this country. While we were busy consuming the idea of racial unity, rainbow nation, cohesion, blah blah blah, the white man has been secretly plotting to maintain his grip on the economy and regain his political power. At least now it will be backed by his financial power. Now that he knows the rules and regulations about how to manage himself in a global system of white supremacy. So politicians, as well as the everyday South African who have been engaged in elections as of late, are simultaneously coming to terms with this realization that indeed there have been long-term plans by the white supremacists to rise back to power, and if not win outright, very much so diminish the power of the ANC by creating systems that would ultimately dilute the voting power of the average black voter. Now we're all drowning in options of which political party to vote for, meaning the ANC wasn't going to enjoy the majority anymore. And therefore the DA, Democratic Alliance, which hasn't grown in the years of its political activism, now has a position to stand upon, whereby no one got a majority vote, and they are now number 2 compared to the EFF, and they can basically demand for anything in a coalition government. Because we see what's going on in Europe, so we know what coalition and whatever government they have planned is going to end. It's going to be chaos for the so-called government of national unity. So here they are, having done everything in their power to prevent an ANC, MK, and EFF coalition. And what that means basically is, I suspect, having gotten to whatever power they went on the international scale, whether it's the Americans, the British, the Europeans, to the point where you have the Fitch rating agency stating outright that they prefer an ANC-DA coalition, that it'll be better for our economy, that an ANC, MK, and EFF, the black powers of this country, if they were to work together, it was going to be a disaster. That's what they said. So we already had international financial institutions putting their knees on our necks as South Africans, telling us that, hey, do what we say or we're going to crash your currency. Now, do we understand why we, the BRICS Alliance, have been promoting the de-dollarization and so on and so forth? Now, as people are wrestling with the outcomes of these elections, let me play you a quick snippet of what the potential deputy president, we don't know, a white man, a full-blown milk man, is about to take full advantage of the global system of white supremacy that has been working to destabilize the black country that is South Africa and put themselves back on power, back in charge, through forced regime change. Now he's enjoying a victory laps, right? Having done everything in his power to prevent what they refer to as a doomsday coalition between the three biggest black parties in this country. And hear what he had to say.
Obviously, government of national unity is a big question. What is the DA's final position? What are we going to see you voting today?
We have concluded, just after the sitting started today, a framework agreement of intent to form a government of national unity.
Intent.
With the African National Congress and the Patriotic and the African National Congress. It is obviously
script is not scripting.
A culmination of 2 weeks of intense negotiations that have occupied both parties. We, through our negotiating team, have met with a variety of political parties in the spectrum, and given the fact that the voters of South Africa in this last election chose not to reward any party with its own majority, then
keep in mind the DA didn't grow. Even when they were campaigning to get black voters on board, they did not grow. But they had to diminish the votership of other political parties. That's where you end up having the story of election interference and manipulation. A lot of political parties in this country had a lot to say about the fuzziness of their numbers during counting. They could see that the numbers were not numbering and something wasn't right. And if every political party other than the Democratic Alliance had problems, the Democratic Alliance is standing to be number 2. They were loud during calls for investigation of corrupt this, corrupt that, blah, blah, blah. But now they're quiet.
I expect us to find each other and work together with its own majority. Then I expect us to find each other and work together to be able to form a stable government. And we believe that the Government of National Unity, the document of which we've signed this morning, is South Africa's best opportunity to get stability, good, clean, accountable governance, but also a group of people who prize constitutionalism and the Bill of Rights.
Hold up. The ANC could have done with MK and EFF. Never mind the people in charge, Ramaphosa, Jacob Zuma, or whomever. They could have come together and said, no, we're not going to fold to the machinations of the Democratic Alliance. We're not going to bend to the will of international monetary institutions threatening our currency. We're not going to do any of these things. Instead, the black powers of this country are going to unite because the people expected them to unite. The DA, they did who knows what to make sure that wouldn't happen, and here we are.
As a group of people who prize constitution, South Africa's best opportunity to get stability, good, clean, accountable governance, but also a group of people who prize constitutionalism and the Bill of Rights as sacrosanct and who will work together to protect our constitutional democracy from assaults and attempts to undermine it by the forces of those who do not believe in constitutionalism and would seek to see our constitution diluted or done away with.
The point, of course, being the average South African has come to the realization that the Constitution does not serve us. It was not created by us for us. It was created to defend and protect white interests in South Africa. Look at who controls the mining institutions. Where the Constitution says that the mining resources of South Africa belong to all South Africans and all those who live in it. Show me in the everyday black South African life that they have gained the financial benefits of the fact that we are a mineral-rich country. The mining companies are still 99.9% white-owned. Mine workers are protesting for better wages all day, every day. And they want to say that the Constitution works for everybody. It doesn't. It works for him. It works for him and his people. It has kept them safe all these 30 years, where we demand land restoration, retribution, reparations, all the right things to do post-apartheid, the things that they should have done if they were really sorry. They did not do. In fact, they fought these things hard. They fought black economic empowerment. They fought it ruthlessly because they still want to maintain their comfort that they've grown to enjoy after 400 years in this place at the expense of the black man and woman. To the best of South Africa, South Africa's interests. Please, who are you trying to convince? Cape Town struggles with extreme inequality, and it's literally black and white. The whites live in rich suburbs, the blacks live in poor, apartheid-built squatter camps. Let us continue.
I believe that we will be taking into government our experience and expertise at local government, but also in the province of the
Paradox.
Western Cape,
Paradox.
towards assisting the growth of South Africa nationally. The agreement is mindful of the fact that there will be disagreements amongst the political parties.
That meaning their memorandums and their ideals are so different, they couldn't be farther from each other in terms of unity. But because of the threat of financial devastation, I suspect the ANC is in a position, and the DA, knowing what they've done to get to where they're at, are all too proud to be moving forward. And the crazy thing is, they all think that no one is noticing. Every day South Africans are having a conversation about the math not mathing coming these elections. And we understand why, right? We went de-dollarization, we promoted the BRICS situation, we promoted the growth of Africa developmental agendas, the betterment of our trade relations with each other, all of which was going to be at the expense of the West, where the Democratic Alliance itself has fought to maintain South Africa's relationships with the West. They are heavy pro-Western, they are pro-Israel, Zionist, you name it. They're there. Cape Town, that is the highest inequality rate visible, black and white. Do not judge him by what he says. Look at the evidence of where they've ruled.
And there are dispute resolution mechanisms contained therein. Chief amongst these is the principle that was very, very widely used in the CODESA negotiations, sufficient consensus. And the document describes what that is.
The CODESA agreement. The CODESA agreement, which was, at the time, the white powers refusing to give up total control, forcing the ANC at the time into, again, a coalition of sorts. But we know that only one kept its end of the deal. We created a safe space for white people to thrive in this country without fear of retribution, while they did everything in their power to maintain a grip on their lifestyles, their economy, their financial power over us. And they've been enjoying themselves ever since, and they want to get back to that state. But we shall see if the unemployment rate in this country is going to change with the years going by. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm your host, MODISE The High King. Things are happening, things are changing. Of course, I am not afraid. I'm watching this movie, grabbing my popcorn, and doing what I can where I can as a black man in this place to do what I can for my people long term. Because the Africa developmental agenda is not contingent on what becomes of this country politically or who's in charge, or what we everyday peoples of South Africa choose to do. If we care about black unity, let us move forward and do our thing. Let me know what you think in the comments below, family. I'm your host, MODISE The High King. Stay royal, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.